I am Dr. Tanveer Ahmad. This is lecture number 2 of Principles of Animal Nutrition. In this lecture, we will discuss about science of nutrition, its scope and history of development. My question is why proper knowledge of nutrition of domesticated animal is required. Because when we compare this domesticated animal from the wild animal, both have the nutrient requirement, both have the production, then why we are emphasizing on the nutrition of domesticated animal? Even when the animal they are in the wild state, they eat at their own will, they produce milk for their young ones. So why we are giving more emphasis when we say about nutrition of domesticated animal? So the answer is wild animals they have their lot of time to be spent in search of food item. They don't have other activities. Second, a variety of food items they are available to animal in the wild state, so they have choice on their feeding. Third, they have a low productivity because their milk production is only for their young ones, so they don't have to go for commercial production. So that's why the animal they eat at their own will and they produce for their young ones. But when we say domesticated animal, here domestication means to tame the behavior of an animal according to individual's need, according to the people who are going to domesticate the animal for their need, and that need is production of food items in the form of milk, meat or eggs in case of poultry. So these domesticated animals they are kept under controlled environment, so they are in the captive conditions and they don't have choice for food items, so they have to eat whatever we feed them, so they rely on the food or feed which we are offering them. And the third, because we are raising these animals for high productivity and their nutrition will definitely be high as compared to the wild animal. So when we provide all the nutrient requirement in a proper proportion according to that animal need, then ultimately we will get more productivity, and that productivity is from economic point of view we consider economical production, where the cost of production should not be high. So farm animals and poultry they are just like a machine which transform feed into meat, milk, egg, wool, hair or work, and the major emphasis on efficiency of conversion so as to minimize the feed intake and to get a maximum production from that animal, so that result in an economical production. So for our commercial activity or all commercial enterprises, the major emphasis on economic of the business, economics of the production. So if we consider animal feed cost, that cost is around 60 to 75% of the total cost of production of an animal. So if we are able to maintain the nutrient, if we are able to provide the nutrient according to the requirement of an individual animal, then definitely we will get more productivity. And the second is we have to minimize the feed losses, otherwise we would not be able to get economical production. So how that can be possible? So that could be possible only if we have a proper knowledge of the principles of animal nutrition and we apply them appropriately, then we can get maximum production. So what are those principles? And that application is basically the application of nutrient knowledge, their utilization in the body. So there are more than 100 chemical elements. Out of those 100 chemical elements, only 20 make up the essential feed nutrients: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus and other mineral elements. They are the part of the diet. So the combination of these elements will make different type of nutrients like carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamin and minerals, along with some elements which are required in large amount. Some of the elements which usually we do not consider essential, but still they are required by individual in a very small amount, like chromium, silicon, tin, vanadium, nickel. We will discuss in the coming lectures about such trace elements feeding. So these elements, they make up the feed nutrients. So a nutrient is a chemical compound that have a specific function in the nutritive support of the animal body. So we can also define it any feed constituent that may function in the nutritive support of an animal life, that is known as nutrient. So nutrients are carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamin and minerals, as well as water. So what is the scope of animal nutrition or having a professional degree in animal nutrition? All the government institutes, universities, research organization, they have their post for either the teaching or research post for animal nutritionist having MPhil in animal nutrition. Then highly paid jobs, they are available in the form of manager, production manager, and to some extent assistant production manager at feed mills. So they hire only those individuals who are having their specialization in animal nutrition. Similarly, different poultry and dairy farms and dairy sector is a growing sector in Pakistan, and definitely in coming future a lot of jobs will be available. So they also need the services of animal nutritionists for their diet formulation. Then technical consultant and technical services, they are also hired by the feed mills and even those feed additive industries for their product development, for giving training to the people. Similarly, NGOs, they require such personals, including the private industry who are dealing with the medicine or other type of nutraceuticals. They require the services of animal nutritionist. So a lot of job scope, and I believe at present highly paid jobs in the animal nutrition sectors are available, not only nationally but also internationally. Next part of this lecture is history and the role of past scientists in the development of science of nutrition. Development of science of nutrition is through different eras, and according to the nature of the development, they are divided into 8 major eras of development. The starting with the first era, the number 1 is Naturalistic Era. This era is based on taboos, bizarre superstition, religious perspectives, because at that time there were no instrumentation and experimentation. So the people, they believe that diseases or such things, they are due to the bad doing of an individual, and that's a god wrath on an individual. So there were such perspectives, and all the things they were considered under that taboos or superstitious things. At that time, ancient Greek, they were popular in this era, and they have their logical reasoning rather than doing any experiment. Hippocrates, great physician, also known as the father of medicine, he quoted that children, they need more food. The reason being, they produce more heat, that's why they need more food. He also indicated that very fat people, they are apt to die earlier than those who are slender. We usually at this time or during this era of life, we consider this statement almost the true, because if you consider the children, we all say they need more energy, so they need more food. The people who are more obese, they have more, they are more prone to diseases as compared to those who are thin or who are smart one. So you can say going back to this 460 BC to today's 2020, almost the same things, but now they have been scientifically proved, and they are through different experimentations they have been confirmed. Second is the chemical energy era. This era is the most important era in the development of science of nutrition. During this era, Antoine Laurent Lavoisier, from 1743 to 1794, he known as a founder of the science of nutrition. He said that respiration is just like a combustion process, because in this process there is a consumption of oxygen and there is a production of heat, and there is also expiration of the carbon dioxide. So he related this respiration process to the combustion process and the production of heat in both processes. But unfortunately, this Lavoisier was a great scientist. Unfortunately, this person was not live long, and he was executed due to court order, because he was a government servant, and he collected tax on tobacco that contained water. So the person who sued against this Lavoisier, and court give him a death penalty. So at the time of its death penalty, his friend said it took but a second to cut off his head, yet 100 years is not sufficient to produce one like it. So this statement proved true, because after 100 years of Lavoisier discovery, due to the development of the science of chemistry and physiology, they were known as the foundation for the nutritional studies on nutritional science. Carbohydrate, fat, and protein, they were discovered as a source of energy for the animal body. And the same was said by this Lavoisier. Respiration is a combustion process where oxygen is consumed, these nutrients they are then burned, there is a production of heat, and carbon dioxide expired. So it took almost 100 years to identify this carbohydrate, fat, and protein as the source of energy. Second comes the mineral era. So this era is based on the discovery of different type of minerals, and the discovery of minerals is, you can say, by hit and trial in some cases. Like there is a development of some deficiency science. Then the scientists like this Bosengard, Berzelius, Sat, and co-worker, they then discovered that some particular nutrient is deficient in a diet. Before this, carbohydrate, fat, protein are considered as a complete diet, but when such deficiencies appeared, then the scientists discovered that the individuals who are eating that a particular type of stuff, they are not suffering from such type of deficiency problems or issues. And when their diet contained that stuff, or that stuff or mineral was added in the diet of deficient people, their disease disappeared. So in this way they discovered number of mineral elements. Then a different type of equipment for the analysis of feedstuff they were developed. So ultimately that led to the discovery of trace elements, and that also lead to the discovery of the vitamins. So before vitamins, until 1900, the diet containing carbohydrate, fat, protein, and minerals was considered as a complete diet. But in some areas again some deficiency signs appears, and that led to the discovery of the vitamins. Like here is a common example of beriberi that was happened to occur in Chinese people. Those people were eating the whole rice, but when a milling industry was introduced and rice shelling was done, then what happened, the rice polish that was excluded in the unpolished rice, because the whole rice contained this polished component, but when there is a rice milling, the polished component separated, and we have a unpolished rice. So the people who used to eat these polished rice, they resulted in the deficiency of vitamin B1 that caused this beriberi. So the scientist, the Egypt man, he discovered that the people who were using the whole rice, they were free from this beriberi, but those people who are using the polished rice, that have some issue. Similarly, this night blindness and other diseases like this scurvy, that is due to the deficiency of vitamin C, and that was appeared in those individuals who were doing sailing for a long time, and when they reach at some beach and they drink some soft drinks or something like that which contain vitamin C or citrus fruit, so the scurvy disappear. So in this way the vitamin discovery was happened. Casimir Funk at that time identified that these are some of the unidentified substances and they are required in minute amount. So he gave the name of vital amine to these unidentified substances. Later on it become vitamin because one of the vitamin contain amino group as a their structural component, so they gave that name vitamin. But later on, after knowing the chemical composition of different vitamin, it was clear that these are not the amino acids, they do not have that essential amino group, so they named it as vitamin. Then vitamin A was discovered in 1930. Then later on, two classes were defined as a fat soluble vitamin, that is A, D, E and K, and water soluble vitamins, vitamin B complex group and vitamin C. So between 1930 to 1940, vitamins they were identified and synthesized. So nowadays commercial productions of synthetic vitamin is there, and they are used in human or animal food or feed supplements. So this is a case of very weak person. Then came the scorbutic gums. You can see similarly the tongue, that is due to the deficiency of vitamin C. Then the case of this ricket, that is due to the deficiency of calcium. Also sometime occurred due to the deficiency of vitamin D. They are the soft bones, the banded bones. Next comes the feeding standard era. So when scientists they identify all the nutrients, carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamin and mineral, then question arises how much amount of a particular diet is required for a particular type of animal. So then the search was to calculate the nutrient requirement of particular individual. In this case, the first feeding standard was developed in 1810 by Thayer. He developed hay value standard. He used hay as a standard and compare other feedstuff with the hay, and then he listed all the feedstuff, how much quantity of each feedstuff is required for a particular type of animal. Then Grovin he do carbohydrate, fat and protein analysis. So he established the tables containing carbohydrate, fat and protein content of the feedstuff, and then rather than on the total nutrient requirement, the individual wolf he established digestible nutrients, how much quantity is digestible from the total amount of nutrients. Layman modified this wolf standards, and Henry in 1908 developed total digestible nutrient concept. That's a digestible carbohydrate, fat, carbohydrate, digestible protein plus digestible fat multiplied by 2.25. So that's a total digestible nutrient, and that is used as an energy estimate of the diet. Still in some countries people they are using TDN value to calculate the nutrient requirement and to formulate a diet on TDN basis. Then Kellner in 1907 developed starch values. So starch values, they are almost equivalent to not equivalent to, rather almost on the same way as Thayer developed the hay values. Then Scandinavian country, they have their own feed unit system. They were developed by the wool. Then Amsby established the energy system on the basis of net energy value of the diet. So almost nowadays the net energy value is common, and it is being used for the diet formulation of different species of animals. Most widely used feeding standard in the world, there are a lot of feeding standards. They are available in different countries. They establish according to their own species, according to their own environment. So USA, they have their National Academy of Science, and they have a committee on animal nutrition, that is National Research Committee on Animal Nutrition. They establish feeding standard on net energy value for dairy animals. In England, Agricultural and Food Research Council developed feeding standard of metabolizable energy, and Indian, they develop feeding standard. They are known as Indian feeding standards, and they are the mid-Morrison values. So you can say they don't have their own feeding standards, but they use the Morrison values to establish for the animals. Similarly, Australian, their Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research, and in French, National Institute of Agriculture Research, and they develop their feeding standards for their own animal. Similarly, in USA, they modified their NRC, and they have some better system, that's the cornel net carbohydrate and protein system for animal feeding.
In Pakistan, we mostly follow these NRC guidelines for formulating animal diet. Though we have our own work on buffalo and cattle, and we can use that, but as such, we don't have a very authenticated data. And that's why we rely on already developed feeding standards. Then comes the Minosaid era in 1930 that was started with William C. Rose and co-worker, because at that time the instruments for this for the determination of amino acids were developed, and at that time they identified essential and non-essential amino acids, and they said that 10 amino acids they are the essential amino acids. Then comes the feed additives and implant era. This is you can say the recent era is also having contribution in the development of these feed additives. uh, when a scientist they discovered that everything is right, uh, these are the nutrients and how much quantity is required, then the question arises how we can improve the digestibility, how we can improve the availability of the nutrients. Then they use different type of feed stuff to improve the nutrient utilization, to improve the growth of the animal. So that era is known as feed additives era, where they use different type of drugs, particularly the antibiotics or some steroid, and they help to improve the growth and feed efficiency. At that time, Food and Drug Administration of USA they approved such drugs, but nowadays the use of antibiotics as a growth promoter that has been banned in number of countries, and people they are not using antibiotics as a growth promoter, rather they diverted towards the use of different other stuffs like prebiotic, probiotics, ionophores. We will discuss about these feed additives in detail here. Just these are the stuffs which are used to improve the nutrient utilization or to improve the growth or well-being of the animal. So at that time, in the earlier time, antimicrobial, hormone, enzyme, antibiotics, pre, ionophore, a number of other stuffs, they are used as a feed additives. So feed additives, these are the non-nutritive feed stuff. They are not the feed stuff or the nutrients, or they do not provide nutrition by self. Rather, they improve the absorption or assimilation of the nutrient from the gut. So the why some of the drugs they require the withdrawal time before slaughter. If you are feeding antibiotic to the animal, so they need their consideration. They should not go into the food chain, or they should not go to the go into the human consumption. जी मोइज आपका हैंड रेज है, क्या आपका क्वेश्चन है?
Sir, what are ionophores?
अब अच्छा, ये मैं अगर इस डिटेल में चला गया तो ये बहुत लंबा हो जाना है. Ionophores basically they are used to improve the fermentation process. They are the chemical compound है जिसमें monensin है, salicylates है, they are available in the market, and their behavior is similar to that of antibiotics. They are not antibiotics, but their behavior is similar, so they help in uh, an improvement of fermentation process. You can say that these are the Riemann fermentation modifiers.
Sir, chemical agents होते हैं या फिर ये वो living organism microbes होते हैं?
The question understanding कर सका?
सर ये microbes होते हैं ionophores या फिर chemical constituents होते हैं?
नहीं, ionophores these are the chemicals. आपको बताया ना कि they are similar to that of antibiotics. Their mode of action is similar to that of antibiotics, but they are not antibiotic in nature. These are the chemicals or chemical agents that help to improve the fermentation process.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Next is the biotechnology era, जो recent हमारा this is the recent era in which we are living. So simply biotechnology we define in a you can say the general definition is that it is a technique that is used to apply different type of tools on the living things and to get or to get better production from those living things. Like just a common example of like if you talk about the cloning, so that is by using different tools we clone the genes. Then we can also produce probiotic we also produce enzymes from these microbes through fermentation process. So that is a biotechnology. Technology concerned with the application of an array of biological and genic tools from gene splicing to manipulating cells, tissues and genes so as to control certain characteristics. Like there is a simple date back process of production of enzymes where we grow these microorganisms, we cultivate them, and we get the enzyme production. But nowadays, through this biotechnology, we made changes in the genetic makeup of those microbes, and we insert those genes which can produce, which result in the production of more enzyme. So they are incorporated for enhancing that enzyme production from that particular species. Over time, there is a single cell protein production. Simply, that's a biomass production through microbial cultivation. Or, then we use that microorganism as a source of protein. Recombinant DNA technology, where we manipulate this DNA. Then nutritional genomics, production of pro, pre, and postbiotics. So they can also through this biotechnological application. So nutrition genomics, I will give you an idea in the next slides after this one. Nanotechnology is also nowadays is common in its application in animal and human sciences and many other industrial fields. Basically, nano mean a particle that is having a size of 10 raised to power minus 9. So you can say it's a 10 to raise power minus 6 of the size of a human hair. So very small particle, very small particle. They have been developed different for the treatment of different diseases, for the application of different vaccines, and even uh, these nanoparticles they have been developed for different minerals for their utilization in the poultry side, where that nanotechnology help to improve the utilization of those minerals. There are some studies on calcium, phosphorus, and iron. The nano iron particles they help to reduce the amount of iron required by the required in the diet. Like if we usually feed 20 ppm to the animal, but through this nanotechnology, it might be about 12 or 14 ppm. Similarly, these nanoparticle, particularly silver nanoparticle, they are used to uh, uh, to act as an antimicrobial agent. Here you can see this nanoparticle that mimic the host cell surface in poultry, and they lock the targeted pathogen. Basically, they use different nanoparticles. They feed to the chicks. So what happened? The pathogenic microorganisms, they are being targeted by these nanoparticles, and they're bind with these nanoparticles, and they're not being absorbed through the gut. Rather, they cannot infect the animal or bird, and they are excreted in the feces of the bird. So in this way, we can tackle or we can treat, we can prevent animal from different diseases by using these nanoparticles. Uh, so nutrigenomics is a study of effect of food and food constituents on gene expression. So simply, I will say uh, there are two individuals. We are feeding them a same type of diet, but one individual performed better as compared to the other individuals. Why? So this is due to the effect of food on gene expression. So that knowing that science is known as nutrition and genetics. So become nutrigenomics. So in this science, we study basically how the genes they are expressed by a different type of food items. The example I have quoted, if the diet is same, but the performance is different from the two individuals. So that definitely is due to the genetic makeup of the individual. So if we are able to understand or we are able to identify the gene expression by food item, then we can go for a fine-tune feeding. Uh, it means we can basically feed those nutrients or those stuff to the individual that can result in maximum gene expression. That gene expression might be for milk production, it might be for meat or egg production, or uh, any other type of activity. So in this way, we can save those nutrients which would not cause gene expression. So those nutrients can be utilized for the other individuals. So in this way, we can save diet, or we can save nutrients rather than wasting those. So this is a rational mean to optimize the nutrition, and this can be very good, accurately can be applied in case of human being, okay, where we can go for individualized feeding. Particularly when we talk about these uh, plans for dieting. So the dieting plan is same for 2 or 3 individuals. They are doing all the thing in the same way, but the effect is different. The reason being of this gene expression. Okay, their dietary plan might not be suit a individual, one individual, rather than it can have a very good effect on the second individual. So through this nutrigenomics, we would be able to go for individualized feeding, and we can save food, and we can, you can say, get better performance from animal also.